It's that time again. If you're a real estate agent and you're looking to finally build a business that creates consistent cash flow, but you're concerned about all the market disruptions, relax. You found your safe haven to learn the secret to success. List you last. Welcome to this week's podcast. Hey, welcome everybody. Bob Mangold, aka the listing coach, here with this week's episode, number 5 of the If You List Your Last podcast. Now, according to BuzzRank, the podcast platform that we use, we're performing in the top 1% of new podcasts across all industries. So thanks to all of you that are listening, to those that are downloading and sharing the podcast. Now, I actually had a change of mind for this week's content. Originally, I was going to talk about how to get listing appointments with every for sale by owner, like 100% of them. I actually had an event happen last week that I really felt like I needed to cover ASAP. And I promise that I'll cover the FSBO topic next week, okay? Now, as always, if you want to share your thoughts on any of the podcasts, any of the discussions that I have, just jump on over to Facebook and join the Real Estate Asset Advisors group, where you can share your thoughts, good or bad. And I encourage you every Wednesday or every other Wednesday to jump on the Elevate Business Briefings, because the classes that I do every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and they're all designed to take and help realtors understand how to build a listing-focused business and to take and become very efficient in how they manage their business. So you can always register for that at www.elevatebusinessbriefings.com, and briefings is plural, and make sure that you attend them. And then finally, you can download a pre-release version of my book at www.ifyoulist. With all the promotion out of the way now, let's get started with this week's show. Now, the highest paying job on the planet is solving problems. Computers were around for decades before Bill Gates came around. He just made it easy for the average consumer to utilize a computer, and it completely revolutionized the world. And as I record this today, Microsoft is about to pass Apple as the most valuable company on the planet. Now, he did this because he solved the problem for hundreds of millions of people and businesses. So anyone that knows me for any length of time, has attended any of my live training or maybe Zoom classes over the last 5 or 6 years, they understand that my belief in the long-term success of an agent is tied to being able to explain the value and benefits of working with you instead of another agent. Fair enough? Now, we do that through what we call value branding. And what value branding is pretty simple. It simply states to the consumer what benefit that they have coming from you. So many real estate agents are about talking about themselves and how much business they do and how long they've been around. And what value branding is about talking about how the customer benefits from being around you. Fair enough? And in order to do that, you've got to build your skills and knowledge, which you're doing that by attending classes and the podcasts that I do. And the goal is really to improve the financial outcome of everyone that you work with, which would actually transform you from being a realtor to becoming a resource instead. So let me set the stage for you why this is so important and why this class, why I wanted to change it, and share this with you, okay? So let me give you the details. This family's mother was 95 years old, and her only source of income is Social Security. There's 4 kids, and because she retired 30 years ago, her monthly Social Security is barely enough to keep her lights on. There's just not very much money there. Her home is worth $450,000, and it's completely free and clear. The home is titled in her name. Her home was built in 1962. It is in the Southeast Florida in the Miami area, okay? She has zero money in the bank, like nothing. She's living on Social Security. So this is where it comes into becoming the value and understanding what benefit people get from working with us and the advice and the resources that we can bring them to bear. So here we go. She's had a roof leak for the last 3 years, to the point where she's had people out several different times to put tarps over the roof. So Lord only knows how much damage has been done to the interior, right? Falling drywall, wet drywall, things of that nature. And the question I have for the family was, well, are you concerned that like drywall could fall on her while she was sleeping in bed? Is there mold in the house? After 3 years of being wet in Southeast Florida, I used to live in Southeast Florida, so I know how much it rains. There has to be mold in the house. So now we have a 95-year-old woman living with mold in her house. On top of it, she's got severe electrical issues that need to be addressed. Okay. All it would take is one spark to light a fire. She has 4 kids, and one is a real estate agent, a regular, everyday, ordinary agent. There's a reason I said that to you. Let's get to the bad news. She has no homeowner's insurance. She hasn't had it for years simply because she can't afford it. And remember, she owns the house free and clear. So she can't afford homeowner's insurance, and she lives in the hurricane capital of the world, Southeast Florida. My first introduction to a hurricane was Hurricane Andrew. Folks, what happens if the house is destroyed in a hurricane, got flooded, loses roofs, things of that nature? How much is the house worth now? And the answer is it's worth nothing, maybe a little bit for the lot. What happens if the house started on fire because there was an electrical short? How much is the home worth now? And where does mom go to live at that point, right? So are we really protecting her by letting her make some of the decisions that she made? And so as I was talking to my friend, I was saying, first of all, I got a couple of different questions for you. Number one is, how bad's the roof? He said, it's terrible. I said, okay, so you can't get any kind of home equity line of credit. You can't do a reverse mortgage. You can't do anything. But what you can do is you can get financing from roofers. There's different types of roofing companies, and many of them will finance the cost of fixing the roof. And his answer was, yeah, I get that. And I suppose we could do it, but she could never afford the payment. And I said, then you guys have to afford the payment. But the very first thing that you have to do is go and get homeowner's insurance on this property. It's one fire away from being completely worthless. And here's the thing, guys. Mom is 95 years old. We can do this to help your mom for the last few years of her life. But at the end of the day, you're impacting your inheritance on top of it. There's a $450,000 asset sitting there that you're not utilizing in any way. And he said, no, mom is very clear. No reverse mortgage, no mortgage, nothing. That's, I think she can barely afford food. Yet she's got $450,000 in a free and clear asset. So I told him the first thing you guys have to do is go get homeowner's insurance on it. I don't care. Maybe rotate it around through the 4 of you, right? 1 month you pay it, the next month your sister pays it, and whatever it would be. But you have to get a homeowner's insurance on that property. So that was the first thing. Then the second thing I said, does she have a will or a trust? And he goes, we think she does. And I said, what does that mean that you think she does? Do any of your siblings know where it's at? And he said, I don't think so, which means highly likely she doesn't have a will at least. So I recommended that he goes to his local title company, and in Florida, they use real estate attorneys sometimes too, and have a beneficiary deed drawn up. Most title companies are going to do it for you. Maybe they charge you $50, and you record a beneficiary deed. So what I'm going to do is I want to share my screen with you real quick, and I want to just start showing you some resources that you can utilize to go and start helping these people out. Remember, I don't want you creating the beneficiary deed because you're not an attorney. You're not a title company. So what I want to do is take and bring you to where we talk about a beneficiary deed. What is the purpose of it? It's filed before somebody passes away. And really all it does is it immediately transfers upon death to the beneficiary of the deed. Why is that important? Number one is it stops it from going to probate, which means a judge now determines what to do with this asset that's worth $450,000. At that level, she doesn't pay any estate tax on it, but it can still sit there in probate. So now imagine this. The house sits there for a year, because generally probate takes a year. It can take up to 2 years. It takes a year or two. In the meantime, all that water, all that rain is coming along and destroying the inside of the house, adding mold to it. The electric work has to be done. And now let's say it gets through probate, it didn't burn down, we didn't have a hurricane, anything like that. And now they've got to take and sell it. Who's going to buy it with a bad roof? Because they can't get a loan on it. So what they end up doing is sending it to some or selling it to some cash offer or flipper that's going to make money on it. And there's nothing wrong with it. They let this happen, right? Again, they impacted by not asking mom these questions and helping her put this stuff in place. They impacted their own inheritance. So yes, we want to take care of mom, but I also want to take care of the family because they stand to gain this asset through an inheritance. And so at the end of the day, we have to take and look at, well, 5 years from now, what's the value of the house going to be? I'm sorry, wrong one. Let's go here. This is worth $450 right now. I said just house appreciation of 4%. That's pretty low and conservative from Florida, but what the heck? The house is now worth $547,493.81. So the house goes up just short of $100,000, right? $97,000. Folks, if the house burns down or got ruined in an accident or in a hurricane or something like that, there is no $547,000 asset. Here's the other thing. My next question was, who's actually on the title? And he said, look. I says, is it in an LLC? Is it in a trust? And he said, I don't think so. I'm sure it's not in an LLC, but why is that important? Especially somebody who's 95 years old. Folks, unfortunately, we live in a world where lots of people want to take advantage of people, especially the elderly, and at 95, the very elderly. Someone could literally knock on her door and convince her to sign over her house. And I know you go, no, that can't happen, but you guys all see the stories all the time. That happens. Or let's say that she has somebody there to cut the grass and they get hurt on her property and they go to an attorney and they find out that the house is free and clear and they sue to take the house. Now, she doesn't drive anymore, so she couldn't have a car accident, but anything that incurs any kind of liability, folks, somebody could be walking on her sidewalk to come and knock on the door and they trip and they can sue her. And then the attorney goes and looks up this property and it's free and clear. That's liability risk. And what they're going to do is they're going to sue this poor woman for about $1 million, settling, saying, you know what, we'll take 400 or 450. So again, we didn't protect mom at all, or her estate, or their inheritance. So my second recommendation was to go and take and get that house put into an LLC so that it doesn't show ownership under mom. And the kids can be members and all those different options. And again, they go, what should I do? And my answer is to find a good real estate attorney in Florida. Remember, I want to be a resource. I don't want to be giving legal advice. So my answer was, go find a real estate attorney or an estate planning attorney and ask these questions. And they're like, yeah, but we don't have the money. Mom doesn't have the money. So I want you to remember that. Every answer is mom doesn't have the money to do that. Now I don't have any money to protect mom's assets. So we've got that as a concern. They could actually take the house. We could lose the house in a fire, a hurricane, any of those things. And they said, we need money to fix the house. And I said, based on what you told me, you're not going to be able to get a loan, whether it's a HELOC or a reverse mortgage. Nobody's going to do a loan in the house with the roof. So you can find a roofer. Literally, while I was talking to him, I Googled roofing contractors and roofing sales companies in Southeast Florida. And I found a bunch of companies that will actually do the work, and they actually will arrange financing for the work. And they said, I get that, and we know that we need to fix it. But then there's a monthly payment, and mom does not have any money for a monthly payment. And I said, well, here's the deal, guys. You guys are going to have to make a decision that whatever these monthly expenses are, that if she doesn't have it, you guys are going to have to split it 4 ways. So let's say that it's let's call it $1,000 a month in expenses. Each one of you are going to have to kick in $250. So that's one option. And he told me basically, none of them really have that much excess cash to be able to take this on. And so I said, that really leaves you your last option of putting a mortgage on this house. Now, the best mortgage for it is a reverse mortgage. And he was like, no and hell no. Dave Ramsey said a reverse mortgage is a scam and don't ever do one. Folks, this is where being educated, which is what we promote inside the Certified Real Estate Asset Advisor program, is that we get educated on how this works. And so what I said to him is, anybody sat down and put numbers to your situation? And the answer was, no, not really. I just never looked into it because Dave Ramsey said it's terrible. I said, there's a lot of things Dave Ramsey says that I agree with, but there's also a lot of things I don't agree with. And so here's how it would work. They would actually qualify, she would, based on her age, value of the property, once the roof is fixed, she could get a $294,000 reverse mortgage. That's net after closing costs, everything. So she would have $294,000 disposal to work with. And he said, doesn't want a mortgage payment. I said, you don't have a mortgage payment with a reverse mortgage. He goes, that's too much. He said, then when something happens to her, there won't be any equity in the house. This is why we're not taking care of people. And so what I did is I explained to him that, listen, she could take out a loan that would net $294,600 to her. Let's say that it costs $30,000 to do the roof and the electrical. If there's mold, it could be $50,000 a month or $50,000 that you have to use. But I said, let's just use 30 based on what you're telling me right now. She gets access to $294,600. She takes $30,000 out. She has no monthly payment on that. If you're watching this on YouTube, I actually have these calculations up on the screen that you can see. So that means she'd have a $264,000, $264,600 line of credit. Just because somebody has a $294,000 reverse mortgage doesn't mean they have to draw it. So let's say she took $30,000 as a draw to pay off the roof repairs and the electrical repairs. He has a $264,600 line of credit, paying 8.1% guaranteed by HUD. Folks, if you can get 8.1% return guaranteed by the government, I would suggest you do it. And so what I said is, now she would have no monthly mortgage payment. She would have no roof repair payments or anything like that. And she'd actually have a line of credit for $264,600. At the end of 5 years, let's assume she didn't touch any of the interest. That $264,000 5 years later would be worth $390,587. Plus, remember, the house went up $97,000. Her heirs, her assets, her inheritance, their inheritance literally just went up by $230,000 because we did this. Mom doesn't have a mortgage payment. She gets the roof fixed. She gets the electric fixed. And she has money if it's there in an emergency. However, here's another option. She can't afford anything. She barely can afford food. If she simply drew the interest out every month, never affected the $264,600 line of credit balance, right? Which means she's not accruing any negative interest on it. She has no payment on it. She could take out $1,787 per month in interest and never affect the balance of that reverse mortgage. She'd still only owe $30,000. So we could add almost $1,800 a month in income to her by putting this reverse mortgage in place. And when something happens to her, she passes away, the kids have to pay off the $30,000 reverse mortgage, but they have $390,000 on top of it. Plus, the home is free and clear at call it $550. We just elevated the inheritance for those kids. One of them is a real estate agent and never took the time to learn about this stuff or explain it to mom. And so what I said is, I'll put together a spreadsheet for you that kind of explains how this stuff works, because financially, you're all crazy if you don't do this. You guys will increase your inheritance. Mom could have another $1,800 a month coming in, and the answer is, well, she doesn't need that much. It's great. Pull $500 in interest out and let the rest accrue. It doesn't matter what you do. The key is that you have options. Right now, you don't have any options. She can't afford to keep lights on. She just really can't afford food. She can't afford any medication. She's got a roof that's leaking. God only knows that there's mold in the property, right? So that can't be good for her health. she's completely exposed from a liability standpoint, and you guys aren't doing anything about it. Yet you're a real estate agent. You should know better. And that's why I created the whole certified real estate asset advisor program, folks, is because we need to start teaching realtors how to do that. Because do you think if you actually help the family do what I just explained, increase the amount of money that the kids will inherit, give mom a better lifestyle, protect that asset from burning down or being taken away from her or a hurricane? So we protect her assets so she's got a roof over her head, and we put her in the best possible scenario financially, both for her for the remainder of her lifetime, and then for the kids to inherit the property and increase their inheritance. If I help them do that, am I more valuable than just another real estate agent like her kid? Because her kid didn't explain any of this. They just took at face value. Mom said she never wants a mortgage, and Dave Ramsey said reverse mortgages are terrible. No, guys, we have to dig deeper and understand these things. The reason why people say reverse mortgages are terrible is because they don't understand how they actually work. And the reality of it is Dave Ramsey's probably just not getting paid to promote it. He's getting paid on other mortgages, but not that. And so at the end of the day, our job has to be able to take and bring value to the people that we work with. And hopefully that makes sense for you guys, right? Because just look at how that family would be impacted. And there's an option available for her, and it doesn't harm her in any way. And as a matter of fact, it improves her lifestyle for the remainder of her time. And it also has a dramatic increase in the value of that estate and what the kids would inherit. So why wouldn't the kids do that? It's just fear, lack of knowledge. That's why we have our agents going through this certified real estate asset advisor program. We want to turn agents into lawyers. We want to teach them so they understand what to be on the lookout for, and then they connect a professional with the client. Don't give legal advice, but be able to say, I've got a good estate planning attorney, or I've got a good attorney who will file an LLC. I've got a good attorney that would do a beneficiary deed. You become the connector, but you have to know this stuff to be able to benefit them. And unfortunately, I think just too many agents bury their head in the sand and just keep doing the same thing over and over again instead of saying, hey, listen, in order for me to increase my value to somebody, I have to increase my education, my skills, my knowledge, the people that I know, if you want to help people. Otherwise, you're going to have to explain to people why you're just a real estate agent and you're worth 3, 4, 5, 6%. And the reason I bring that up is if you go to the Facebook real estate page, the Real Estate Asset Advisors page, I actually posted an article today from Yahoo Finance about another one of the copycat lawsuits. And I didn't really care about the lawsuit because there are a dime a dozen at this point, but it was about the comments that people that read that article were making. And for years, as soon as I seen the whole moral lawsuit that popped up, my answer to agents was, it doesn't matter if we win or lose the case. Because back 5 or 6 years ago, agents were just saying, dude, we're going to win that. And I said, don't worry, we're going to win that. And I said, yeah, I don't think so. But it doesn't matter if we win or lose. I wasn't in the mode to argue. I just said, even if we win in the courts, which turned out we didn't, we lose in the court of public opinion. And people didn't have a real good outlook on real estate agents anyway, and how much money we make and all that kind of stuff. Go read the comments in that article and you'll understand what I was talking about, because people have great disdain for us. They think we're overpaid. All I did was list my house and throw it in. They didn't do anything. And I paid $30,000 in commissions to get it in MLS. Folks, you better have a better answer than that. That's what the whole real estate asset advisor program is all about. It's upping that game so that you are aware of what you did. Let's say that I would have sold them this house and whatever it was when she bought it, call it $300,000. She's been in there a while, but let's say that it was. My commission would have been $9,000. Based on what I just did to reposition that asset, make sure that it's protected with homeowners insurance, make sure that the roof gets repaired, make sure that we get a beneficiary deed done, set up and arrange for a reverse mortgage for them so they could do that. Was I worth $9,000? You're darn right it was. Because let's just say that the house burned down or it got destroyed in a hurricane or any of those scenarios. You just lost a $450,000 asset that's going to appreciate at least 4% a year. Florida's higher than that. $97,000 in price appreciation. Was I worth $9,000 to protect it and save it? And then turn it into a $550,000 asset with another $390,000 available? I would suggest I was worth $9,000. So at the end of the day, folks, I wanted to cover that today because this is a real life situation. This is what I see all the time happen. And that we just simply don't put our clients in a position to be able to help them in the way that they really should be. Now, I have a lot of agents go, yeah, but nobody expects that I should do that. And that's exactly why you should be doing it, because it's over and above what somebody expects from you. And go ahead and read those articles. And guess what, guys? They don't really care for you. So understanding these kind of problems is the first step, if you will, to be able to elevate your skills and elevate your game. And then start to say, what kind of contractors do I need to find that I could refer people to things like this? And what about a reverse mortgage specialist? And you can always come to me and, I can set that up with my son. I don't actually do loans. What about financial and estate planning professionals? What about divorce attorneys? What about probate attorneys? What about senior care facilities and all these different things? Right? So I cover that in great detail on the Wednesday Elevate Business briefings, but recognizing that you got to up your game is really the first step in changing your value branding. You've actually got to do something that creates value, and telling people you've been in real estate for 15 or 20 years doesn't do it. Hopefully that all makes sense for you because, folks, in my opinion, it's critical in today's industry that you get viewed as an expert, and more importantly, that you're a valuable resource to your community. Because I personally am extremely excited about the future of the real estate business. And everybody goes, "Are you crazy? You can't be excited about it." So I absolutely am. I fully understand that many real estate agents will be leaving the business, which leaves more market share for the agents that I work with to be able to go out and get, because they'll be able to take and explain the value proposition that they can provide for their customer. They can show them what the financial outcome will be and how much better it is because they worked with them instead of, just went to a new home subdivision and bought a home. Make sense? So it's time to up our game. And as this happened, I said, I have to talk about this. It's more important in my mind that agents understand that you have to take and put together a value branding plan. Just like you do a business plan, you have to have a value branding plan. What does that look like? What's encompassed in that? So again, I encourage you to come to the Elevate Business briefings. I do some other classes that you'll want to get. I encourage you to download the book, folks. But guess what? I know we've had a lot of people download the book. I just question how many actually read it. And so one of the things I tell people, it's like, is the Real Estate Asset Advisor organization, is it a coaching company? My answer is no. Is it a marketing company? My answer is no. What we are is an implementation company. If you don't implement, you can go and read my book, but if you don't implement any of those things in your business, nothing will happen. And so I just this morning did a goal and actual call with some of my agents, and I don't handle those. But at the end of the day, I wanted to jump in there. And it was real quick. It was like, okay, how many people talked to 50 people last week? Potential sellers or people who could refer you sellers. And anything else that you tell me you did is irrelevant to me because you did not talk to 10 people a day. That is the secret to success. But once you elevate your game, you've got a lot more people you can talk to, and you've got a lot better things to talk to them about. So hopefully that makes sense. Make sure you just jump on these different classes and you can see some of the things that we talk about because it is about elevating your game. And so thanks for listening to the podcast. If you're watching it on YouTube, very cool. Thank you so much. And at the end of the day, folks, do me a favor, please share the podcasts, download them. It helps on SEO. That's why I was quite encouraged that Buzzsprout said we're in the top 1% of all new podcasts across all industries. I'm trying to get a message out to real estate agents that it's time to up their game. And so that's the content that I want to deliver. So I appreciate you listening, downloading, sharing. And if you're watching it on YouTube, I appreciate you watching it on YouTube. And we'll talk to you next week. Have an amazing week.